To follow from last week's video discussing the breakdown of my OC RAVIN, this video will now present a story of RAVIN taking part in the Bluelock project, or more fittingly, what if RAVIN was in Bluelock? Now, if you haven't watched last week's video, I highly recommend you doing so, as I give details regarding my character's backstory, stats before coming to Bluelock, weapons, and additional information. Consider it as a non-mandatory origin story or light novel, as you don't need to watch it, but a lot of what will happen in this story will make a lot more sense if you do. Also, this what if celebrates the 1-year anniversary of my channel, and going forward I will release follow-up parts of this series at subscriber milestones. So if you want to see the story continue from part 1, be sure to subscribe to the channel and get us to 5,000 subscribers. Once we hit that goal, I will release part 2. And also, to show how much you enjoyed this video, please leave a like as well. Anyway, with all that said and done, let's start our story. The day comes when RAVIN goes to the Japan Football Association Union, assuming that this was the place that the letter directed him to be, and upon stepping into the building and eventually finding the location of the room he was meant to go, he walked through the doors to gaze upon the sheer number of individuals all in this confined space as well. He was surprised but kept himself collected as he shuffled his way past some very unique looking people. RAVIN eventually put 2 and 2 together, figuring out all of these players were forwards just like him, but he did not have the foggiest clue of what the purpose of this gathering was. A couple of minutes pass by, and finally, Ego steps onto the stage in front of this crowd of football forwards. The speech was no different than the original, however, RAVIN's reaction was one of intrigue. He had no idea a place like this could even exist, but what Ego is describing is exactly the excitement that RAVIN was seeking for himself. As Ego's collection of speeches had wrapped up, RAVIN noticed a player running towards the now open entrance behind Ego, then followed by a huge crowd. RAVIN followed suit within the mix of players, as finally, through this insane project idea, he can feel a fire for the sport he loved once again. Buses were organised to bring every player to the Bluelock facility, and soon RAVIN had arrived. He received his uniform with the number 259 on it, and Team W on the upper sleeve. He enters into his designated room to be introduced to 11 additional players in this room as well. Not much context was provided before arriving, so RAVIN puts on his uniform, and as he finishes changing, Ego pops up on a giant monitor on the wall, announcing that a game of football tag will commence to eliminate one of these players within the room. The ball goes to the worst player in the room, who unsurprisingly was struggling to hit anyone. 2 players began teasing this player, mocking and laughing at him. RAVIN stood off at a reasonable distance away from the immature confrontation, and before he knew it, these 2 weirdos took the ball away from the bottom player and passed it between them. They were higher ranked than RAVIN at 258 and 257, and they were heading straight towards him. These 2 players, of course, were the Wanama brothers. They felt threatened by a player like RAVIN who was only 1 rank behind them, so they declared that they want him out of Bluelock. A sense of thrill tingles down RAVIN's spine. Supposedly 2 better players working together to get him out. Maybe this is the challenge he wanted all along. He avoided their attempted strike. Each attempt on our main character was simply not good enough, and as the clock ticked down to the tag's inevitable end, the Wanama brothers abandoned their plan and started getting desperate, managing to hit a random player before the timer hit 0. The player who ended up being tagged was eliminated from Bluelock. Ego pops back up on the giant monitor and explains how everyone in this room is now a team of 11 who aim to surpass each other, but also function as a team to win matches against 4 other teams within this same facility. Once Ego explained all the further details of Bluelock's first selection and disappeared, the Wanama brothers stepped forward to RAVIN, expressing a half-assed sarcastic apology, leading up to their true intentions to say how the 3 of them could work together. It was obviously a blatant trap for them to use RAVIN for goal-scoring opportunities, so RAVIN obviously declined the offer, not interested in players who reek of desperation. RAVIN was aware that if he wanted to become better, he would need to surpass both of the brothers whilst they worked as a collaborative duo to get goals for themselves. The first match was set to happen after the first 2 matches between the other teams occurred, and until then, RAVIN kept up with his training to improve his stamina, his flexibility, and put in the effort to polish up on his rusted skills from skipping out on practice prior to coming to Bluelock. Their first match was against Team X, a team who had won their prior match against Team Z. RAVIN only found interest in the supposed king of the team, that being Burū, as they were making their way onto the field. Team W's formation was decided by straight up force. The Wanama brothers played as forwards, and when the match had started, they began their strategy of quickly exchanging passes between them to score goals. However, the rest of Team W of course are wanting to qualify from the condition of top goal scorer, and due to this they were stalling the Wanama brothers tactics, which led to Team X retrieving the ball. This is all due to Team W not yet having an established sense of teamwork like Team X had from facing Team Z. Players of Team X began began to pass, directing the scoring opportunities to Burū, but RAVIN had intercepted the final pass before it reached him, which shocked our king. RAVIN now had pretty much the whole pitch to compete with, so he needed to act fast. He passed to some random on his team and exclaimed how he could get them a goal if he works with him to get upfield. This no-name Team W player was naive and desperate enough to take the bait, as the 1-2 exchange was all that RAVIN needed in order to clear past a huge gathering of Team X and Team W players scrambling to get the ball. And now RAVIN was facing against Team X's defenses on the inside box. Even the Wanama brothers are trying to steal RAVIN's efforts, but that wouldn't be so simple. RAVIN's performance for goals becomes better when there's more people in his way, as he can use them for the maximum efficiency with his shooting weapon called the Curving Obstruction Strike. It's a bending ground shot that is used with a tremendous amount of accuracy and a lot of spin. In this shot, either the inside or the outside of the foot is used to put the ball in a curved or bending course in the air. Think of Rin's blind shot in particular to get reference, and think of it more as a strike where the ball bends lower to the ground instead of a shot that is a high arc. Very useful for going around defenses where defending players actually act as accidental blockades for the goalkeeper to not react in time when the ball reappears in their sights. So to get around the players and avoid easy interception from Burū's current charge from behind, joining the massive group of players all trying to get the ball from RAVIN's clutches, RAVIN does the Curving Obstruction Strike from the right side of the pitch 20 meters away from the goal. The ball curves to the left around the defenders, then curving back around to the right after, and then slams into the right middle section of the net, which the goalkeeper couldn't have anticipated due to the amount of players blocking his sight. The score is 1-0 to Team W. Burū scoffs, not admitting that he was actually impressed by the skill used in that shot, and instead stares RAVIN down before getting back into his position. Team W now were aligning themselves to work around RAVIN through his impressive goal feats, turning that 0 into 1, bringing the team together. Well, most of them. The Wanama brothers lost their own chance at making the team their own from the very start, and they refused to give any support to RAVIN, but that did not concern him too much at all. The match continues on. Burū kept his sights focused on RAVIN and didn't allow RAVIN to intercept passes like before. The Wanama brothers decide to charge him without too much of a plan, so Burū double nutmegged them, getting through to score. Now, the score was 1-1. RAVIN received the starting ball, and after passing, he's being marked by the opposing players. Team W didn't have much of a choice at this point, so they passed upfield to the Wanama brothers, who got past Burū with their pass exchanges to make the score 2-1. RAVIN realizes that he's being shut down now that he showed off his capabilities, so he needed a different approach. So during the halftime, he swapped positions with a teammate on the midfield discreetly enough to where the Wanama brothers didn't notice before the match continued after halftime. Burū with the kickoff ball did his traditional charge, however this time he was getting pinched by Team W players. He passed to a teammate further upfield aiming for a 1-2, but RAVIN had intercepted this pass instead. Players on Team X weren't perceptive enough to be aware of his new position further back instead of being further up the field, and through this he was able to stay out of pressured situations. Burū quickly recovered and got back on the defense whilst RAVIN was dribbling past some no-named oppositions. When RAVIN faced up against Burū, our main character's entire presence shifted. He was more collected, calculated, and focused, as he was now utilizing spatial awareness. Through its use, he was realizing the openings he can take advantage of. RAVIN dribbles to the left side with the ball, and as Burū follows after and begins to push in, RAVIN takes a closer shot to the goal on the left side of the pitch with an outside curve. The ball flies past Burū when it was originally shot to the left, but curves back in swiftly to the right, hitting the net, making the score 3-1. It seems like the higher ranking for Team W's team was proven evidential, and before the match comes to a close, RAVIN managed to score another goal with the assistance of other players from Team W, minus the Wanama brothers, ending the game at 4-1. It puts RAVIN ahead as the top goal scorer by 3 goals, and Ego assigns him as the top ranked player for Team W. During their time off the pitch, the Wanama bros seemed determined to try and sabotage RAVIN somehow, but they weren't in a position of leadership as they were in the original, which basically made them outcast from the rest of the team as they were rude and annoying. The next match coming up was Team W versus Team V, and as you might expect from this game, it didn't go too differently from the original due to 3 strong individual players on the opposing side being Zantetsu, Ryo, and Nagi. RAVIN only managed to score 1 singular goal in his defiance, as he found it hard to break through defenses of Team V due to Zantetsu's superior speed, Ryo's overall leadership, and the lack of 2 primary teammates because they were too stubborn to work with the world's best beanpole. Instead, these two ugly fucks were taking out the loss on everyone except taking equal accountability as the rest of the team already did. After the match, this what-if scenario changed the event of Kuon attempting to ally himself with Team W for his own benefit. The Wanama brothers still wanted to accept Kuon's offer in trade for Team Z information, however, Raven swiftly rejected the offer, stating that, "If you're not good enough to fight with your team till the end, what makes you think that you'll be able to fight alone when the time comes?" Basically saying the act of betrayal in your team is flawed if you need that to advance past the first stage, because how will you advance through Bluelock individually when sabotage cannot cut it? These words impacted Kuon's original mindset enough to go back to his team and just focus on winning the next match traditionally. All the while, Raven had his own training to do in order to make up for his losing efforts against Team V. An aspect that I didn't mention from that match was Raven actually missed one of his shots on the goal due to the added pressure of Team V's stronger overall players, as he seemingly can't shake this evidential rustiness that he's obtained, so he was determined to get better, as defeat in the future should not be an option. Kuon not betraying Team Z is much more impactful than you think. I mean, without it, we wouldn't have Chigri break free from his injury-related confinement, but don't worry, Raven has that covered in this scenario. After the starting kickoff, a close game ensues with Team Z. Raven and the rest of Team W, instead of obtaining information regarding Team Z's weapons from Kuon, did it all by watching videotapings, leading to this game being so much more back and forward, with even the Wanama brothers now having the opportunity to break past Team Z's weaker defenses as they all rotate in positions as part of Kuon's plan. The score was at a 3-3 tie in the final 3 minutes. Raven had scored 2 goals for his side, whilst Wanama Jinpachi scored 1 goal, whilst for Team Z, Kuon had scored 1 goal for his team and Kunigami has scored 2. And in the process of the next restart, Raven speaks to Chigiri really briefly regarding what he had heard from the Wanama brothers. "Your talents are wasted on you if you choose to let your injury be the reason for you to stop trying. It intrigued me to hear that you used to be such a dominant threat, but now you're nothing more than a filler slot for defense. Suck it up. The cards that you're dealt with in life does not decide your fate. Only you can decide your fate." With the combination of those words and the desperate efforts of Team Z and most importantly Isagi to come out victorious, in the final moments of this match, Chigiri still broke free and made Raven even see the influence of his words. Chigiri was unable to be held down, and when Raven matched up against him, Raven had no contingency plan for beating someone so much faster than he was, leading to Chigiri scoring the game-winning goal, ending the score of the match at 3-4. Team W may have lost, but Raven was more excited than ever seeing a player like that being able to dream once more. It reminded him of himself at the beginning of this project, having the fire for football once again. With Team W's second loss, they are now in the orange danger zone, where not winning the next game against Team Y would definitely result in everyone but the top goal scorer being eliminated. But a win over Team X wouldn't even guarantee their victory as the second place team. So this was actually when Team W started turning against Raven, and they all wanted to certainly make it through being the top goal scorers, but that seemed very unlikely, with Raven having a goal scoring total of 6 currently, and the only other person with goals to their name was Wanama Jinpachi with 2 goals himself. Raven still played to the best of his abilities against Team Y, but due to his now selfish allies, he couldn't get goals so easily. Nico still managed to score a goal to draw against Raven's 1 achieved goal, which led to the last Team W versus Team Y game to be a complete tie. Team X, Team Y and Team W had all their non-top goal scorers eliminated from Bluelock. Raven saw the crowd of his former teammates walking down the hallways, crying now that their dreams are over, and Raven didn't convey any sense of sorrow or empathy. In fact, he was glad, as now he could actually see what else Bluelock has to offer. Before he made his way back to his now empty sleeping room, he came across Isagi and Bachelor. The three had some awkward silence for a moment until Bachelor spoke up, congratulating Raven on passing. Isagi also shares his eulogium, and Raven smiled in response, thanking them before also returning that same congrats for winning their match against Team V like the original before walking off. Raven now had realised that Isagi was the first one to run towards the open doors of Bluelock. The feeling of excitement started all over again in anticipation for the next chapter in his story, knowing he will get to play with and face off against true egoists after passing the first selection of Bluelock. He still had so much to work on, but he knew better than anyone else that he was up for the challenge. If you all enjoyed part 1 of this What If, once again be sure to show it by leaving a like and subscribe to the channel. This is merely the starting foundation being built in Raven's story, so I hope you all are excited for part 2 when Raven takes on the second selection. And until next time everyone, thank you for a year of the Raven Geeks channel.